Now, for those of y'all that have been locked in and been a part of this, you know we don't shy away from stepping into that batter's box. We call our shot. We call our shot fairly often on this show. We had Prediction Tuesday throughout the course of this season. We had our predictions preseason. Heck, we had predictions midseason, meaning we took our predictions from the preseason, recalibrated them, and gave you new predictions. And I think it's time that we kind of face the music here. So I want to go through our hits and misses, if you will, from the 2023 campaign for us here on the Heart Count. There's a fair share of both, so I want to make sure we unpack them accordingly. The first miss, and this might honestly be a thing where we do several volumes of this, depending on how y'all respond to this. Our first miss, Washington. That is the miss. Washington was a miss for us pretty much the entirety of the season. Hand up, that's on us. We don't run away from that. That is 1,000% the way that this thing went down if you're watching it. We picked them right in one game this season. One game. That was the USC game. And then we tried to kind of recalibrate our logic and tried to sort of fade ourselves, if you will, when it comes to Washington, and picked them to win the national championship game. And we were wrong about that too. So they defied logic all year long with not having the advantage on the line of scrimmage on paper and not having, the more multiple ways to win on paper. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because they won. It felt like all their games in a close fashion. They won 8 games by 1 score and deserved to be in that game last night. But for us, 1,000% a miss for us throughout the course of this season was Washington. Hand up. That's on us. Very big miss. Now a hit for us this year, one that I feel like we really knocked out of the park, was Oklahoma. Because going into the season, we talked about it a lot, the punchline culture for Brent Venables, not a head coach. Oklahoma, man, they're on the downswing going to the SEC. Oh boy, going to be a long few years in Norman. Those 1-score losses they had from 2022, we knew they weren't going to hold. We went so far as to say we took the over on their 9.5 win total, and Oklahoma won 10 games this year. So we feel good about where they're headed going forward. The Jackson Arnold era got off to a rocky start in their bowl game. Listen, the talented cat, he's a 5-star cat for a reason out of high school. He's going to be just fine. I think Oklahoma, will it be immediate success in the SEC? We'll see what happens there, but they're not going to be an operation that's just severely outmatched when they get to that conference. And I think by nature of their jump from 2022 to 2023 should tell us a lot about the way that they're trending and the way that Brent Venables has got that thing trending in the near future. Also, they're recruiting well, brought in a stacked defensive line class to the good folks in Norman, so a lot to be excited about. Oklahoma, we never bought the smoke on the 6 and 7 year and the punchline culture and all this and all that. We felt good about them. That's a hit for us. The 10 wins for them, I think, proves that point. Now, a miss for us. Let's go back to the Pac-12, and I guess the new Big Ten is probably the right way to say that. A miss for us was USC. Because, y'all, to be honest, I thought USC would be what Washington was this year in the sense that, yeah, the defense isn't incredible. It's obvious there's some issues there. But what they have offensively is going to override their deficiencies on the other side of the football, and that just was not the case. And to me, like, my takeaway is when people show you who they are, when defenses show you who they are, you believe them the first time. And we did not believe what USC was showing us. We thought, okay, they went to the portal. They're going to be better on that side of the football. Bear Alexander, Anthony Lucas, like they're going to be improved on that side of the ball, right? No. We had them as a playoff team. They won 7 games. Miller Moss came in and lit up in the bowl game. That was great. But, like, at the end of the day, we missed on USC. No other way around it. We missed on USC. That's on us. Our bad. A hit, though, for us this year. Getting back on the right side of things, the arrival of Texas. Every single offseason, I guess up to this offseason, and probably this future offseason, there's going to be folks that have opinions on Texas because it's a massive brand, and it's always going to be a talking point in the college football landscape. There's always this thought that, well, Texas, they're overrated. What have they really done? And that was fair to a degree because you had the 5 and 7 year, then you had the 8-win year from Texas going into year 3 for Steve Sarkisian. And we thought Texas would be a double-digit win football team. We took them to win the Big 12. Now, we didn't have them in the playoff, but I still feel like there was always this thought around, well, Texas, are they back? Are they not back? Like, that was always, we think, the wrong lens to view Texas through because Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers, they weren't around for any of those years that were, quote, underachieving in the past, the 5 and 7 year kind of being excluded because that's year 1. You're trying to get it off the ground. But, like, The way that they were built this year, and I think the way they trended going into this year, we felt really good about them. And that ended up being the case. The culture that they showed at multiple points during that 8-4 season, I thought was enough of a glimmer of hope to get excited about and give some good, projections towards. And that ended up being the case again with them. In fact, winning the Big 12 conference, their only loss being against Oklahoma. And what we said about their culture in the preseason, they bounced back in a big way after that Oklahoma loss, won the rest of their games, including the Big 12 title game. And we feel good about how we projected Texas this year. And we'll say this too. I think they're built to last. I don't think this is just a flash in the pan kind of year. Steve Sarkisian is acquiring great talent, of course. They're building that roster the right way, of course. But the culture. It was a buzzword for a long time in a negative way against Texas. I think it's a positive buzzword now going forward in the Sark era for the good folks in the 40 acres. So we think we hit when it comes to Texas. Now, our last two miss and hit to talk about are about the same team. A lot of y'all let me know about our predictions on Michigan in the postseason, and we missed on Michigan. I had a couple of y'all actually in NRG Stadium, some of y'all in the front row say, hey, you picked Washington. And God bless you. We appreciate y'all watching the show. But you're absolutely right. We picked Washington. And before that, y'all, this is embarrassing. We picked Alabama. And to be real, we just got enamored with the flashy things in college football. We thought the matchups for Alabama and their potent offense was going to be able to put Michigan into a tricky spot. That wasn't the case. We thought Washington was going to be able to vertically challenge that secondary for Michigan. If they forced them into that, deficit of 10 points or more, they wouldn't be able to overcome that. We never even got to that situation. Overall, we talked ourselves too much into the what ifs of what Michigan might not have or didn't have and all that. It never mattered because of the way they're built, because of their roster, because of, quite frankly, what they had under the hood and the way they responded in those different spots, the way they excelled in the Rose Bowl, they excelled in the stage that was the national title game. We missed on Michigan in the postseason. That is a miss for us. We own that. Hey, hand up. That's on us. Michigan, your national champs today. Now, one thing I do want to say, though, as much as we missed on Michigan in the postseason, there were a lot of folks in the comment section that said, JD, you picked against Michigan in every big game this season. I would disagree with that. We have the receipts to show that. We thought Michigan was going to go undefeated and win the Big Ten. We picked Michigan against Penn State. We picked Michigan against Ohio State. We picked Michigan in the Big Ten championship. We picked Michigan in every single game. You can go check our TikTok predictions, and we had them going undefeated at the beginning of this season, way back in like July or August. So we always loved the way they were built. We always felt like the roster itself was good enough to run the table, at least in the regular season. And we always felt like J.J. McCarthy was set to take that next step as a quarterback, throwing the football downfield. And probably even more importantly, the unfinished business that this team had. Obviously, we missed on the postseason, but we felt pretty strongly about how they would fare in the regular season. And so I have to say, when it comes to the regular season, what Michigan handled, that was a hit for us. And so we'll make sure we have that known as it pertains to the good folks in the maize and blue. So that's volume one. Again, how y'all respond to this will dictate if we do this in the future, but I thought it was an appropriate exercise as the confetti is now being cleaned up as we speak at Energy Stadium for us to kind of get together and have a conversation about where we hit and where we missed this past season in college football. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.